They don't have enough money. Now the government said they'll get more, another 1.3 billion. So does that end their problems? Well, I'm joined by Kevin Courtney, who's the General Secretary of the National Union of Teachers, and Luke Sibiesta from the Institute of Fiscal Studies. On the simple figures, Luke Sibiesta, what do they tell us?
Well, good morning, John. Yesterday's announcement means that school spending can now be about £880 million higher in 2019 than otherwise would have been.
So and is that substantial? I mean, the total sum available for education?
Well, it means that rather than being cut by 2%, as was previously planned between 2017 and 2019, it will now be frozen in real terms. So it's about an extra 2%, on the school's budget, I'd say.
Right, and the rest of it?
Well, the increase in school spending of 2% is being paid for by reductions in spending elsewhere. So they're cutting the amount of spending that's going on the Healthy Schools programs. That's investment in sports facilities and mental health facilities, and they're also cutting spending on the Free Schools program. So that's reducing the amount of money they're spending on new schools.
Right, but will it mean, do you think, according to your figures, that schools who have been saying we are going to have to cut more in the coming year, 2 years, whatever, will not now have to make those additional cuts, the cuts that have already been made?
I think it means they probably don't have to make much in the way of additional cuts, but it's important to say that schools have already experienced relatively significant cuts already over the last 2 or 3 years, so they experience increase in national insurance and pension contributions, and we think that school spending with people has already fallen by about 4 to 5% in real terms over the last 2 years, so probably no more additional cuts, but not reversing any of the past cuts either.
Right, so Kevin Courtney, that is good news, isn't it?
Well, we're always pleased to hear about more money, and this is a step, but it's £800 million more money compared with a £3 billion cut that's happened from 2015 to 2020. So it's a step in the right direction, but schools still have the overhang of the cuts they've made. So we're predicting that secondary class sizes will be higher this September because teachers have left this summer and not been replaced in very many cases. So an 8-form entry secondary school will teach in 7 classes instead of 8 classes in quite a lot of cases, so class size is going up. So we're not satisfied with this. It's a step in the right direction, but we're predicting on our schoolcuts.org.uk website, we're predicting that schools are still facing a £2.1 billion real terms reduction between 2015 and 2020. That's a cumulative amount of £6.9 billion. At a level of an individual school, those cuts are significant.
So what does it mean then, instead of talking in global terms, which probably doesn't mean very much to most people, does it? In terms of a typical secondary school of, let's say, 600, 800 pupils, what does it mean in practical terms for the head teacher?
The answer to that does depend on where you are in the country. So if you're in one of the London boroughs, which were historically the better funded and which used that money very well to improve education, they will now be getting a 0.5% cash increase, but across that period we're talking about, that's an 8% real terms cut. So they've got about a 7.5% real terms cut.
And again, in practical terms, in terms of the number of teachers.
So we've got on our schoolcuts.org.uk website, we put equivalents of the number of teachers. In a large London secondary school, that could be 15 teachers equivalent salary.
Out of how many?
Out of 100. So, these are very rough figures. If you're talking about the historically lowest funded areas, the East Riding of Yorkshire, then Justine Greening's announcement yesterday is of a 3% cash increase, but that again compares with the 8% real terms cut. So even in the lowest funded areas, across this 5-year period, I mean, we think Luke's right that now there's a stability going forward in the overall school budget, but with the redistributive effects of the formula, you will still see, even in the East Riding of Yorkshire, across the 5-year period, that they are down in real terms, even though they were lowest.
Do you accept that, Luke?
I think it's very clear that it's going to feel very different in different parts of the country. If you're a school in an area that's having a 3% increase in school funding per year, that's going to feel better than the 0.5% increase. But it's also important to set alongside the fact that teacher pay is relatively frozen over the next 2 years. So if they keep to that 1% cap, which I don't know whether they will do or not, that makes it slightly easier to deliver relatively low increases in school budgets.
Will you keep to that 1% cut?
Well, actually, it's already been breached, because the school teacher review body report last week that the government accepted says there's a 2% increase on the main spine. So the youngest teachers are due to get a 2% pay rise, and that isn't funded in these overall figures. So teachers need a pay rise like other public sector workers, but the school teacher review body, which is an independent body, is saying unless there is a significant pay rise during this sort of period, then the teacher recruitment crisis will get even worse. And government needs to be allowing for that, because teachers will need to have that pay rise.
And are you saying that teachers will leave the profession, or they will not come into the profession?
For us in the NUT, the National Union of Teachers, we think that teachers are leaving because of workload. But
why? Are they working any harder than they used to?
Yes, they are.
What are they doing that they didn't do 5 years ago?
5 years is the right sort of time span to think about. When 2010 Michael Gove was elected, there has been a huge increase in meaningless work that doesn't contribute to children's learning. So I use an example: teachers in primary schools who do practical maths being told that they have to take photographs of the practical maths lesson, print those photographs out and stick them in the children's books in order to prove to somebody who comes to the classroom later that they did practical maths. That wasn't done 5 years ago. It is done in many schools now. It's accountability gone mad, and it's driving people out of the profession. So we think we're losing people because of workload, but we now think that on the recruitment end, young people in university considering a job, they're seeing the workload, they're seeing pay held down in teaching, and they're not coming in for that reason.
But you wouldn't want people coming into teaching who on the assumption that it's going to be an easy ride, would you? I mean, everybody works hard.
Certainly not, John. And teaching has always been a long hours profession.
And they get long holidays. I know it's an old cliche, but there are long holidays. That's
fair enough. And if you want those long holidays, become a teacher. But the long hours preparing exciting lessons for children is very different to long hours preparing evidence for a bureaucrat to check up on. But the whole issue we came in to talk about today was not about teachers and teachers' pay, but about school funding. And what we're seeing yesterday is a smoke and mirrors act from the government. They make out it's 1.3 billion. It's actually 800 million.
We just heard that from the IFS. So there we go. Thank you both for joining us, Kevin Courtney and Luke Sibiesta. Thanks both. And we did want to talk to the Secretary of State, but I don't think she wanted to talk to us.
Teachers are leaving because of workload. But
why? Are they working any harder than they used to?
Yes, they are.
What are they doing that they didn't do 5 years ago?
5 years is the right sort of time span to think about. When 2010 Michael Gove was elected, there has been a huge increase in meaningless work that doesn't contribute to children's learning. So I use an example: teachers in primary schools who do practical maths being told that they have to take photographs of the practical maths lesson, print those photographs out and stick them in the children's books in order to prove to somebody who comes to the classroom later that they did practical maths. That wasn't done 5 years ago. It is done in many schools now. It's accountability gone mad, and it's driving people out of the profession. So we think we're losing people because of workload, but we now think that on the recruitment end, young people in university considering a job, they're seeing the workload, they're seeing pay held down in teaching, and they're not coming in for that reason.
But you wouldn't want people coming into teaching who on the assumption that it's going to be an easy ride, would you? I mean, everybody works hard.
Certainly not, John. And teaching has always been a long hours profession.
And they get long holidays. I know it's an old cliche, but there are long holidays. That's
fair enough. And if you want those long holidays, become a teacher. But the long hours preparing exciting lessons for children is very different to long hours preparing evidence for a bureaucrat to check up on. But the whole issue we came in to talk about today was not about teachers and teachers' pay, but about school funding. And what we're seeing yesterday is a smoke and mirrors act from the government. They make out it's 1.3 billion. It's actually 800 million.
We just heard that from the IFS. So there we go. Thank you both for joining us, Kevin Courtney and Luke Sibiesta. Thanks both. And we did want to talk to the Secretary of State, but I don't think she wanted to talk to us.